We're here today, AFGolfStore, Milton, Keynes, and we're here with lead fitter John, and we're going to address this crazy issue in the golf industry, which is about high handicap irons. Now, when a brand releases a set of irons or a series of irons every year, they tend to like to put them in categories and boxes, and they put 0 to 10 handicap and 11 to 18, and then high handicapper and mid handicapper, and that often drives the way you as a consumer and you as a player may shop or get fitted. So you're quite often sort of saying, I'm too good for that, or I'm not good enough for that iron, or I don't want that because it's a blade and I can't hit it. What would you say to that, Tom?
It's a big farce, in my personal opinion.
Okay. Marketing ploy by the companies?
No, I think it's targeted in a specific way that it gets instant impact for that player. So let's say you're 24 handicap, you're just into golf, you need something that's got quite a big sole play, tungsten toe and heel, so you can pretty much miss it everywhere and don't have to worry too much about your technique to start with, and the ball still get airborne and stuff like that. And that's great, that will work for that interim. But as that player progresses, you'll tend to see that certain dynamics of that club won't really work. Okay. So where it's promoting higher launch, you might gain in club head speed. That means he's going to generate more spin. Therefore, he's going to launch the ball higher, and it's going to spin more. It's not going to go as far. So where he gained at the start doesn't really mean that he's going to continuously progress with that. So rather than going specifically into, right, you're a 24 handicapper, let's put you here, that 24 handicapper might be a 24 handicapper because he can't chip or putt.
Okay, get it. Yeah.
So it's not necessarily that your strike rate is bad. So categorising it in a handicap form, I wouldn't do that. I would look at the actual player's ability, because I've had a couple of 24 handicappers come in that end up in something like the T200s.
So quite a
compact,
a good player's iron almost.
Yeah, because they just, with the shaft combination that feels good for them and the look that they're after, at first they might go, ooh, that looks a bit smaller. But in some cases, they hone in their concentration, because that element of, I can hit it anyway, it disappears. It's like, okay,
I've got to focus.
I've got to focus a little bit.
And do you see it going the other way? So guys that maybe are playing off 7 or 8 that might be fantastic at chipping and putting, and that's why they're good, or they're fantastic at driving the golf ball.
Yeah.
Almost go the other way? To go to something a bit chunkier, a bit more forgiving?
Yeah, I mean, a prime example of that would be most people tend to play an MB, right? The single figure handicappers, I want to play blades.
Forged club, a good looking iron.
Thin top line, very little sole play. So strike is imperative, right? When you've got no forgiveness anywhere, strike is important. So then they're like, okay, well, I'm great at chipping and putting. Why are you great at chipping and putting? Are you missing a lot of greens? Is that because when you're slightly hitting out the toe or the heel, you're losing from that? Why not try something that's maybe a CB, or like we said, the T200, where they've added a little bit of tungsten into the toe and the heel, so those off-centre strikes are more forgiving. It still looks like a player's club, it still feels like a player's club.
And there is a bit of that nowadays, isn't there? That there's a lot of good forgiving. Let's take P790 from TaylorMade. It's a very forgiving golf club.
Correct.
But when you put it behind the golf ball, it looks clean, it looks sharp. The top edge, okay, it's a little bit thicker than 770, but it looks really, really good, and you kind of, as a good player, a single figure hand, you still feel comfortable and enjoy hitting that iron.
Correct.
I think one of the things that we really need to kind of get across here is that it's not about your handicap, it's not about your age, it's not about where you play your golf.
No.
It's about the data that's coming off TrackMan.
It's about performance.
It's about the performance, and it's about finding the right club and not coming into a fitting or looking at golf clubs in these kind of boxes of, I can't get that because, or I can only have this because, and let the fitter do his work, if you like.
Yeah.
So how do you, I'm fascinated by this, because I've seen you fit, and I've seen you fit guys that are 18, 17 handicappers into a T100, into clubs that are 223 Mizuno, like, and I'm thinking, wow, okay, how do we get around that? Your experience as a fitter, your knowledge as a fitter, how do you get there? Because that takes a bit of a confidence thing from a fitting point of view, and experience and knowledge to get a player that's off 17 and not just go, do you know what, Hot Metal Pro is as good as I'm willing to take this guy. I'm going to push him further and go into 223. How have you gained that knowledge and experience, and kind of what drives it?
Trial and error, if I'm honest. So like, from the people that I've learned from the best, they've said that it's just repetition. You start seeing patterns, you start understanding what a player can and can't do. you start thinking about the actual tech involved that's in the iron itself. And ultimately, like when something becomes bigger, like you're saying the JPX, the hot metals, they're quite big platform.
Yeah.
So when you've got quite a big platform to work from, that can affect the shaft combination because it can drive weight issues, and that's where you start like just toying around.
Because that's the thing we don't talk about enough, right?
Yeah.
Is we're very good at saying the new tailor-made iron or the new Callaway iron is going to do this and it's going to fly and fastest,
Yeah.
but actually the relationship it has with the shaft that the player needs,
Very important.
and the feel that the player gets,
Yeah.
is critical.
Correct.
So actually putting the head, because that's what we're doing, is we're putting the head in a handicap box,
Yeah.
isn't the smartest of moves. And actually, if we get the right shaft head combination,
Yeah.
it could potentially go across the whole spectrum of handicaps.
Correct. Correct.
Yeah,
And that's what we're seeing. I mean, one of our top sellers is the Forge Tech.
Okay, so we've got that here. Let's get that
so if I
out.
grab that out for you for a second.
So this is the Cobra.
This is the Cobra, so you can see it's got quite a
Show the
substantial
guys-
sole
show Chris
plate.
there.
So you've got a nice little sole plate to work from there. It's a hollow head design, so that you've got the tungsten that goes in the toe, the heel, and a little bit here to drive sort of more ball speed off central strikes, but obviously give you the thickness toe and heel. When you look at it from the top line, you can see top line isn't the thinnest, but it also isn't the thickest. So when a player puts it down, it's got quite a good profile to it.
So let me just get this clear, right? So this on the rack would look like a blade.
Yeah.
And if I'm a 20 handicapper, 16 handicapper, I'm walking past that. I'm not even looking at it, right?
Oh well, you pick it up, go, ooh, that looks nice.
I'd love to have
I
a set
can't
of
hit
these,
that.
but I can't hit that.
Put that back.
But you've put this in place, Hans.
But this is what I'm doing. So when I'm here, I'm taking into account what the players are saying, what they like the looks of, what gives them confidence. Then I'll build something and put it in their hands. I won't tell them what I'm giving them at first, because again, that goes back to the mental side of things where they sit there and go, oh, I'm not good enough for that. You put it down, what do you like about it? Oh, it looks good. And then they smack it, and then they go, do you know what? I really like the feel of that.
Yeah.
Then we look at the data. If the data doesn't match, then you start moving on.
Moving away.
But the majority of the time, people are pleasantly surprised by how they're into a profile they never thought they would be.
Okay, so that's been one popular one. What other ones we got?
P770.
Okay.
So P770. Again, another. So TaylorMade have obviously got the P790, which is predominantly used to increase ball speed, help with forgiveness, toe and heel again. And then you've got the players that maybe not necessarily want to be in a P7MC or a CB, a slightly
Which is
smaller
really thin.
profile.
I think have you got
very
one there?
thin. Yeah, so,
Yeah,
if you look at those, you've got, like, in terms of your profile, you've got a much smaller face. You can tell by heel to toe. It's a lot smaller, similar profile on the top, but thinner top line on the MC. And just all round, sole plate is very, like, it's different. So you've got less forgiveness. So again, goes back to that, if you're not on it, you're going to get a little bit of hurt from this. Whereas you'll get a player that maybe plays a fork. Every now and again, I get this missed strike, and it just really costs me in the round. Try P770. Looks good, looks great, performs great, feels.
So this is really down to how the player hits it.
Yep.
The data that comes back, whether that be swing speed, whether that be ball speed, whether that be quality of strike, combined with the questions you ask the player.
Yep.
So the misses, what's their miss hit, what's their miss strike, what's their directional issues.
Kind of flight they're looking for,
Exactly.
shot shape, all of those come into factor.
So it really isn't about walking in as a 24 handicap and saying I'm restricted to
No, not
4 heads or 5 heads because that's what the companies are telling me. This is about saying, look, I would love to play a decent looking iron.
Yep.
I would love to hit it higher. I would love to hit it further. Whatever the reasons are for changing that golf club. And I think that is one thing that is misunderstood when you come to a fitting, is that a skilled fitter asked an awful lot of questions before we even get to hitting a golf ball.
Yeah, it's the questions that are the most important, because you're trying to extract that data from them to make a decision.
Because most
based
people,
on that.
what we've seen is that most people come into a fitting not really with they just want a new set of golf clubs. They want a new set of irons. So they don't really come in with this idea of, look, I've got my current X, Y, Z golf clubs. I need to get a bit more height because I need to stop the ball on the green quicker, or I need to hit it further, or they don't come with that. It's, I need a set of golf clubs.
Yeah.
And I think I'd like a set of paradigms, or I think I'd like a set of tailor-made PMCs. And that worries me a little bit, because if the player isn't clear in their mind what they want out of a new set, and it takes a while to build that like say, extract that information from them, then actually any data that we get can be quite frustrating.
Yeah.
Because you don't know what they're looking for, and they don't know what you're looking for. So I think really making sure that you get those questions in is obviously incredibly important.
Yeah.
So if we were to hit one now,
Yeah.
what one would you hit? Yeah, for me, I'm a golf pro,
Okay.
but I play 5 times a year now,
Yeah.
luckily.
So you fit into that model that we test out the Forge Tech.
Should we go there first?
We'll go Forge
Cool.
Tech
Let's
first.
get one in there.
Right. So Al, how tall are you?
6'2" on a good day.
6'2" on a good day when you're standing tall.
Yeah, we've got my nice shoes on.
Probably look to go about half an inch longer to start with,
Yeah.
rather than.
That's pretty much what I play.
Yep. And then from the data we would kind of extract lie angle, shaft profile. that sort of thing.
I know we'd go really into the detail. For me, I want to just test this because this wouldn't be an iron that I would pick up. The ego in me would always go to that MC.
Yeah.
And that ego then really hurts when I get on that second round of golf in the year.
And you're not warmed up.
And I can't hit it, and I still can't hit it, and I think I can hit it, but I can't, and I need a bit of forgiveness, especially when I get a 6 iron in my hand. I'm all right with the 8 iron and the 9 iron, but let's have a little hit. So, like you say, it looks good, it looks clean, it looks chunkier than what I'm used to, but it looks pretty good. Sounds clicky,
Yeah.
sounds hot.
Feel wise.
Yeah, it feels fine, it feels good. But this would be not categorised as a good 0-digit player. Where would this sit, in the middle section?
You'd sort of sit anywhere between, I think, 0 and 10. Player
I'm definitely
dependent.
closer to 10 than I am 0.
Yeah, it feels great.
So there we go, guys. I hope that helps. It's good for me to come in and get tested by John, but I think one of the things that's really, really important to understand is when you come in for a fitting, don't put yourself in a box, and don't make the fitter go into a box by saying I can only try irons that are told to be 20 to 24 handicap or 0 to 10 handicapper. Keep an open mind, make sure that you test everything, and listen to your fitter and watch the data.